I'm Jill Harper, trapped in a life that feels like a slow bleed, working endless night shifts at a grimy gas station where the fluorescent lights buzz like my own unraveling nerves. My days are a blur of exhaustion and unpaid bills. My marriage to Mark a fragile thread stretched thin by struggle and silence. But last night, something shifted. A stranger's smile, a fleeting moment of feeling alive, pulled me toward a dangerous edge I never thought I'd cross. Now, as I stand in the dim glow of my crumbling apartment, guilt gnaws at my bones, and the faint sound of Mark's breathing from the next room is a knife to my heart. What have I done? And can I ever undo it? Picture this. The world outside my window is a gray smear, a canvas of endless overcast skies, and the faint, acrid tang of industry clinging to every breath I take. I'm Jill Harper, 30 years old, and this is the only life I've known for far too long. My husband, Mark Harper, is 34, a man of few words but endless grit, who's been out of steady work for over a year now. A back injury stole his place on the construction site, and with it, a piece of who he used to be. We've been married for 6 years, holding on to each other through the cracks of a life that feels like it's crumbling beneath us. Our home, if you can call it that, is a cramped, run-down apartment on the edge of a small industrial town in Ohio. The walls are thin, the paint peels like old skin, and the air always carries that faint whiff of oil and rust, a reminder of the factories that keep this place barely alive. We're drowning in bills, each one a weight heavier than the last, and we're just one missed rent payment away from losing even this sorry excuse for a roof over our heads. My days, or rather, my nights, are spent at Quick Stop, a 24-hour gas station just off the highway where I pull grueling 16-hour shifts as a cashier. The place is a fluorescent-lit purgatory, the kind of spot where time slows to a crawl. The lights above flicker like they're on their last legs, casting a sickly glow over the chipped counter and the rows of overpriced snacks. The break room smells of stale coffee, the kind that's been sitting in the pot for hours, and the constant hum of the refrigerator units is a drone that burrows into your skull. I've lost count of how many times I've wiped down the same sticky spot on the counter, or how many times I've stared at the clock, willing the hands to move faster. The night shifts are the worst, stretching from 6 p.m. to sometimes 2 a.m. or even later. They're lonely, bone-deep exhausting, and often unsettling. The highway brings in all sorts: truckers with bloodshot eyes, drifters with nowhere else to be, and folks who've got no business lingering as long as they do. I've had my share of unwanted attention, comments that make my skin crawl, suggestive remarks about what they'd like to do if we were alone out back. They lean too close over the counter, their breath hot with cheap liquor, and I've learned to keep my face blank, my voice steady, even when my heart's pounding. I'm just a fixture here, part of the scenery, invisible until someone decides I'm not. Inside, I'm a mess of frayed edges. I feel worn down to nothing, like I'm disappearing a little more with every shift. Life has a way of grinding you into dust, and I'm desperate for something, anything, to make me feel seen, to remind me I'm still here. Here I am, standing behind the counter at Quick Stop, the clock ticking past 6 p.m. as the world outside fades into a dim, lonely dusk. The night shift stretches out before me like an endless road, and I'm already feeling the weight of it in my bones. The store is dead quiet, save for the incessant buzz of the neon open 24 hours sign flickering above the door. It's a sound that drills into my head after a while, a constant reminder that I'm stuck here while the rest of the world moves on. I grab a rag and start wiping down the counter, though I know it's pointless. The sticky residue from spilled sodas, and who knows what else, never really comes off. My hands move on autopilot, scrubbing at the same spot I've cleaned 100 times before, while my eyes drift to the empty parking lot outside. A single street light flickers out there, casting a weak, stuttering glow over the cracked asphalt. It's almost hypnotic, watching that light struggle to stay on, like it's as tired as I am. The hours between 6 and 10 p.m. are the slowest, the kind of slow that makes you feel like time itself has forgotten you. I restock the cigarette packs behind the counter, lining them up just so, even though hardly anyone buys them this early in the shift. My feet ache from standing on this hard tile floor, a dull throb that creeps up my calves and settles in my lower back. I shift my weight from one leg to the other, trying to find some relief, but it's no use. Every now and then, the distant roar of a semi-truck rumbles past on the highway, a fleeting reminder that there's a world beyond this fluorescent cage. But here, inside Quick Stop, it's just me and the hum of the fridge units, the stale air, and the ghosts of my own thoughts. I'm exhausted, not just in my body, but deep in my soul. As I stand here, scanning the occasional energy drink or lottery ticket for the rare customer who stumbles in, my mind wanders to places I can't reach. I daydream about a different life, one where I'm not tethered to this counter, where I don't come home smelling like cheap coffee. In desperation, I imagine myself somewhere bright, somewhere warm, where I'm not just surviving but actually living. Maybe I'm laughing with friends I haven't seen in years, or maybe I'm traveling, seeing places I've only ever glimpsed in magazines. But then the bell above the door jingles, snapping me back to reality, and I'm just Jill Harper again. The night shift cashier with dark circles under her eyes and a forced smile on her face. By 11 p.m., the atmosphere in the store shifts. The night owls start trickling in. Folks who look like they've got nowhere better to be, their eyes glassy or their steps unsteady. I brace myself for the inevitable. The comments that make my skin crawl, the looks that linger too long. I've gotten used to. It's creeping past midnight now, and the air in Quick Stop feels heavier, like the night itself is pressing down on me. I'm still behind the counter, my hands idle for once, when the bell above the door chimes with a sharpness that cuts through the silence. I glance up, expecting another weary trucker or a late-night straggler, but instead, 3 guys walk in. Their energy, a stark contrast to the dead stillness of the store. They're all in their late 20s or early 30s, I'd guess, with the kind of casual confidence that makes you notice them right away. The tallest one, with a charming smile that seems to light up the dim space, steps forward while the other 2 fan out toward the aisles. He introduces himself as Travis, his voice smooth and easy, like he's used to getting people to listen. The others, Ethan and Nate, give a quick nod as they rummage through the snack shelves, chuckling to themselves about something I can't quite hear. Travis leans casually on the counter, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he flashes that grin again. He starts chatting like we've known each other for years, cracking a joke about the outdated candy bars we've got stocked. Something about how they're probably older than he is. I can't help but laugh. A real laugh. One I haven't heard from myself in ages. It feels strange, almost foreign, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. Ethan calls out from the aisle, holding up a pack of gummy worms, asking if I think they're still edible. Nate chimes in with a playful jab about how this place must be a time capsule, and soon they're all tossing quips back and forth, their laughter filling the empty store. Travis turns his attention back to me, asking how I handle working these late nights, his tone curious, not creepy, just genuinely interested. I shrug, mumbling something about getting used to it, but he shakes his head, saying I've got a toughness most people couldn't dream of. Then, with a wink, he adds that I've got $1 million smile to go with it. My cheeks flush hot, and I duck my head, pretending to fiddle with the register, but inside, my heart's racing. It's been so long since anyone's looked at me like I'm more than just part of the background, and his words hit me harder than I expect. I catch a glimpse of the cheap wedding band on my finger, the dull metal glinting under the fluorescent lights, and a pang of guilt twists in my gut. Mark's face flashes in my mind, his quiet, steady presence, the way he stuck by me even when everything's fallen apart. But here, in this moment, with Travis's easy charm and the others' playful banter, I feel something I haven't in years. Seen. Alive. I'm enjoying this more than I should, and I know it. Every laugh, every compliment, it's like a little spark igniting something reckless inside me. I try to focus on ringing up their snacks, a couple of energy drinks, some chips, that pack of gummy worms, but my hands are unsteady, and I fumble with the change Travis notices, chuckling softly, and says I seem like I could use a break from this grind. His voice is warm, inviting, and before I can stop myself, I'm nodding along, agreeing that yeah, maybe I do. Then comes the moment that shifts everything. As they're grabbing their stuff to head out, Travis pauses at the door, turning back to me with that same disarming smile. He suggests, almost casually, that I should hang out with them after my shift. Nothing big, just a chance to unwind, to step away from the weight of my life for a bit. Ethan and Nate are lingering behind him, nodding like it's the most natural idea in the world. They say I deserve a night to just be me, not the cashier stuck behind this counter. My breath catches, and I feel like the ground's tilting under me. Every sensible part of me screams to say no, to shut this down right now. I've got Mark waiting at home, a life I've promised to stick. The drive home feels like a descent into a storm I can't escape. My beat-up old sedan rattles along the empty highway, the engine groaning with every mile as if it's as worn out as I am. I keep the radio off, the silence thick and suffocating, leaving me alone with the chaos in my head. My thoughts spiral, a tangled mess of guilt and anticipation, each one sharper than the last. What am I doing? How did I let myself get to this point? Travis's voice echoes in my mind, smooth and tempting, promising a break from the grind, a taste of something different. But then there's Mark, his quiet strength, the way he's fought to keep us together, even when everything's falling apart. I grip the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles whitening, as the weight of my decision presses down on me like a physical force. The road stretches out under the weak glow of streetlights, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm driving toward a cliff, knowing full well I might not stop in time. When I finally pull up to our apartment building, the cracked asphalt of the parking lot greets me like an old, bitter friend. The place looks even more dismal in the pre-dawn darkness. A crumbling relic of better days, I drag myself up the creaking stairs, my legs heavy from the long shift, my mind heavier still. Unlocking the door, I step inside, and the familiar scent of mildew hits me, faint but ever present, a reminder of how far we've fallen. The living room is dim, lit only by the faint flicker of a street lamp sneaking through the blinds. There's Mark, asleep on the sagging couch, his face softened by exhaustion. He's sprawled out, one arm draped over the edge, his chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. He must have come home from one of his odd jobs, hauling junk or fixing fences for cash, and crashed here, too tired to even make it to the bedroom. I stand there for a moment, frozen, watching him. He looks so peaceful, so unaware of the storm brewing inside me. My heart pounds against my ribs, a traitor's rhythm, as I feel the sting of betrayal just for thinking about what I've agreed to. I tiptoe past him, careful not to let the floorboards creak, but every step feels like a lie. In the tiny kitchen, I try to distract myself by tidying up, though it's a futile effort. The counter is cluttered with empty takeout containers and unpaid bills. A snapshot of our struggle, I shove a stack of dirty dishes into the sink, the clatter louder than I intend, and I wince, glancing toward the living room to make sure Mark hasn't stirred. My hands tremble as I grab a rag and wipe down the counter, smearing crumbs and grease into a slightly less depressing mess. It's pointless, I know. Nothing can make this place feel like a home anymore. But I need to do something, anything, to keep my mind from unraveling. I catch my reflection in the smudged window above the sink, and I barely recognize the woman staring back. Dark circles under my eyes, hair pulled back in a messy knot, a face etched with worry. What am I even doing this for? A fleeting thrill? A moment to feel alive? The questions claw at me, but there are no answers, just the hollow ache of uncertainty. I slip into the bedroom to change out of my work uniform, the polyester shirt reeking of stale coffee and desperation. I pull on a faded sweater and a pair of worn jeans, the fabric soft from years of use, but even this small act feels like I'm preparing for something I shouldn't. Every minute that ticks by amplifies the doubt gnawing at my insides. I sit on the edge of the bed, the springs creaking under my weight, and bury my face in my hands. My palms are sweaty, my pulse racing like I've just run a mile, and there's a tight knot in my stomach that won't loosen. No matter how many deep breaths I take, I keep glancing at my phone, the screen lighting up the dark room like a beacon of bad decisions. There it is. A text from Travis. I'm standing in the dim glow of my apartment, the silence so thick it feels like it's choking me. My heart's a wild drum in my chest, each beat echoing the reckless choice I've made. I glance at my phone again. Travis's text burning into my eyes like a brand. Simple words, a time and a place, but they carry a weight I can't shake. I've agreed to meet them, to step out of my life for just a few hours. But now, as I hear the faint rustle of Mark's breathing from the living room, the reality of what I'm risking slams into me like a freight train. I shouldn't be doing this. I know I shouldn't. But the pull is stronger than my better judgment, a desperate need to feel something other than this endless grind. There's a soft knock at the door, so quiet I almost think I've imagined it. My breath catches and I freeze, my hand hovering over the knob. Every nerve in my body screams to ignore it, to pretend I'm not here, but my feet move before my mind can catch up. I twist the handle, the creak of the hinges sounding like a gunshot in the stillness. There they are, Travis, Ethan, and Nate, standing in the hallway, their smiles wide and electric, like they've brought a storm of energy with them. Travis's eyes lock onto mine, that same disarming grin from the gas station curling his lips, and I feel a rush of heat, despite the cold dread pooling in my gut. Ethan gives a small wave, while Nate's got this mischievous glint in his eye, like he knows exactly how dangerous this moment is. Their presence fills the cramped space of the doorway, and I'm suddenly hyper-aware of how small my world feels, how suffocating it's been until right now. I step back, gesturing for them to come in, my voice barely a whisper as I urge them to keep it down. My eyes dart toward the living room, where Mark is still asleep on the couch, oblivious to the betrayal unfolding just a few feet away. They nod, stepping inside with a quiet that feels almost reverent, like they understand the line we're all teetering on. I lead them to the tiny kitchen, the linoleum sticky underfoot, the air heavy with the scent of old coffee grounds and despair. My hands are trembling as I open the fridge, pulling out a few cheap beers I know we can't really afford to spare. The cold cans feel like anchors in my shaky grip, and I fumble with the caps, the sharp pop of each one sounding too loud, too reckless. I hand them over, avoiding Travis's gaze, but I can feel it on me, warm and insistent, like a touch I haven't earned. We settle around the wobbly kitchen table, the chairs scraping softly against the floor. And for a moment, it's almost normal. They keep their voices low, cracking jokes about the long drive they've been on, swapping stories of roadside diners and near misses with flat tires. I force a smile, sipping my beer, the bitter taste grounding me even as my mind spins Ethan's talking about some dive bar they stumbled into a state over, while Nate laughs about the worst motel bed he's ever slept in, springs poking through like knives. It's light, easy, the kind of chatter that makes you forget the weight of the world for a while. But beneath it all, there's a current, a tension that hums in the air, like static before a storm. I feel it in the way Travis's eyes keep finding mine, in the way his laugh seems to linger just for me, and I hate how much I'm drawn to it. Then the mood shifts, subtle at first, but undeniable. Travis leans in closer, his elbow brushing the edge of the table, his hand so near mine I can feel the warmth radiating from it. He murmurs something about how I'm too good for a place like this, his voice low and smooth, wrapping around me like a forbidden promise. My cheeks burn, and I try to laugh it off, but the sound comes out too sharp, too eager. I'm hyper-aware of every inch between us, of the way I'm standing in the kitchen, frozen in place, the bitter taste of guilt coating my tongue like ash. The faint sound of Mark mumbling in his sleep drifts in from the living room, each soft murmur a dagger to my chest. I can't move, can't think past the weight of what I've done. The memory of last night, of stepping over a line I never thought I'd cross, plays on a loop in my mind, vivid and unrelenting. The warmth of forbidden closeness, the rush of feeling something I hadn't in years, it all crashes against the cold reality of my betrayal. My hands grip the edge of the counter, the chipped surface rough under my palms. as I try to steady myself. But there's no escaping this. I've shattered something sacred, and I don't know if I can ever piece it back together. I creep toward the bathroom, my footsteps silent on the worn linoleum, desperate to get away from the sound of Mark's innocent rest. I shut the door behind me with a soft click, the tiny space feeling like a confessional I don't deserve. Turning on the faucet, I splash cold water on my face, the shock of it stinging my skin, but it does nothing to wash away the shame. I grip the edges of the sink, staring into the cracked mirror above it, and the reflection looking back at me is a stranger. My eyes are hollow, shadowed by sleepless regret, my mouth a tight line of self-loathing. I hate the person I see. Hate how I let myself fall so far. How did I get here? Years of feeling invisible, of carrying the crushing weight of poverty, of aching for any kind of escape. They all piled up until I couldn't see straight. But as I stare into that fractured glass, I know none of it justifies what I've done. I crossed a boundary that can't be uncrossed, and the ache of that truth burns deeper than any excuse I could muster. Morning comes too soon, the pale light sneaking through the blinds like an accusation. I force myself to move through the motions, to act like nothing's changed, though everything has. In the kitchen, I fumble with the coffee maker, the cheap grounds spilling over the counter as my hands shake. Mark shuffles in, his hair mussed from sleep, his eyes still heavy with exhaustion. I can't meet his gaze as I slide a chipped mug toward him, the steam curling up like a ghost between us. He mutters a quiet thanks, then starts talking about a potential job lead, some warehouse gig that might finally give us a lifeline. His voice is hopeful, a rare tone these days, and it cuts me to the core. I nod along, murmuring vague agreements, but my focus is on the floor, on the scuffed tiles, on anything but his face. The tension in the air is suffocating, a silent scream in my chest as I wonder if he senses something's off. Does he see the guilt written in the way I can't look at him? Does he hear it in the way my words come out clipped and hollow? But he just sips his coffee, oblivious, and I'm torn between relief and despair I haven't told him. I don't know if I ever will. The urge to confess claws at me, to lay it all bare and beg for forgiveness, but the fear of losing him, of losing the only stable thing in my crumbling world, keeps my lips sealed. I'm trapped in this secret, a prisoner of my own making. The day drags on, each hour a reminder of the weight I carry. By evening, I'm back at Quick Stop for another night shift, the fluorescent lights casting their familiar sickly glow over the empty store. I stand behind the counter, staring out at the desolate parking lot, the cracked asphalt bathed in the weak flicker of that same struggling street light. The hum of the fridge units buzzes in the background, a constant drone that mirrors the noise in my head. I'm alone again, just me and the ghosts of my choices, and I can't help but replay every moment that led me here. The laughter, the fleeting thrill, the way I let myself be swept up in something I knew was wrong. It all haunts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story.